The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across our family's formal dining room as I pushed my untouched beef Wellington around my plate. Weekly family dinners were always tense, but tonight felt different. The air was thick with unspoken words, and my parents kept exchanging meaningful glances. I caught Mum's eye. Her lips pursed as if holding back a storm. "Not tonight," I muttered under my breath, knowing she'd hear. She didn't flinch, but her grip on her fork tightened. "Sophie," my mother finally said, setting down her wineglass with deliberate precision, "your father and I have been discussing your situation." I looked up, meeting her perfectly made-up face. At 30, I was the family disappointment, the only one of the 3 Thompson children who hadn't followed the prescribed path of law school and joining the family's prestigious law firm. "Situation?" I echoed, my voice sharper than intended. "You mean my life?" Mum's eyes narrowed, a warning I ignored. By situation, I kept my voice neutral, though my heart started racing. My older sister, Isabel, smirked from across the table. At 33, she was already a junior partner at Thompson & Partners, following perfectly in our father's footsteps. Next to her, my younger brother James, 24, was quickly climbing the firm's ranks. Isabel leaned forward, her voice dripping with mock concern. "Still playing with your little tech toy, Sophie? When are you going to grow up?" I clenched my jaw, resisting the urge to snap back. "Yes," Dad cleared his throat. "Your persistent refusal to join the firm, this foolish startup venture of yours, it's gone on long enough." I gripped my fork tighter. My foolish venture was a tech company I'd built from scratch 2 years ago, developing AI-driven legal research software. I tried explaining to them how it could revolutionize legal research, but they dismissed it as a waste of time. "It's not a hobby," I said, my voice rising. "It's a company, Dad. One that's changing the industry." He waved me off, his face reddening. "Enough, Sophie. You're embarrassing yourself." "We're cutting you off completely," Mum announced, as if commenting on the weather. "No more trust fund access. No more living in the family apartment. No more credit cards. It's time you grew up and accepted your responsibilities." The room fell silent. Isabel's smirk grew wider. James suddenly became very interested in his green beans. "You think I need your money," I shot back, my voice trembling with anger. "I've built something real, something you'll never understand." Mum's eyebrow arched. "Real? Your little app?" "I haven't touched a trust fund in 3 years," I said quietly. "Don't be ridiculous," Mum scoffed. "How else could you be supporting yourself with this little computer project of yours?" Before I could respond, Isabel chimed in. "I heard your company's barely breaking even, Sophie. Margaret, from Goldman Sachs, told me all about it." "Margaret's gossip isn't fact," I snapped. "You'd know that if you ever bothered to ask me directly." Isabel's eyes flashed with irritation. "Don't lecture me, Sophie. I'm not the one throwing away our legacy." I had to bite back a laugh. Margaret, from Goldman Sachs, had no idea about my company's financials. We'd stayed private deliberately, flying under the radar while we perfected our technology. "Actually," I started, but Dad cut me off. "Enough excuses. You have 2 choices. Join the firm as a first-year associate or face being cut off completely." "You're serious?" I asked, my voice low but laced with defiance. "You'd rather see me fail than succeed on my own terms?" Dad's face hardened. "This isn't about success. It's about loyalty. We've already had the trust fund papers drawn up. I'm not joining the firm," I said firmly. "Then you leave us no choice," Mum said dramatically. "We're doing this for your own good. You can't keep playing innovator forever." Just then my phone rang. I usually silenced it during family dinners, one of Mum's strict rules, but tonight I'd left it on purposely. "Don't you dare," Mum hissed, her composure cracking. I met her gaze, unflinching, and answered anyway. The caller ID showed my assistant's name. "Excuse me," I said, standing up. "I need to take this." "Sophie?" Mum's voice rose sharply. "We are having a family discussion." I answered anyway, putting it on speaker. "Yes, Clara?" Miss Momsen, my assistant's professional voice filled the dining room. I apologise for interrupting your dinner, but you asked to be notified immediately. Our stock just hit $120 million. 0 cents in the private trading round. Goldman Sachs is requesting an urgent meeting about taking us public. The room froze. Isabel's wine glass slipped from her hand, splashing red across the white tablecloth. "What?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. The silence that followed was deafening. Isabel's fork clattered against her plate. James choked on his wine. Mum's perfectly composed face froze in shock. "Thank you, Clara," I said calmly. "Schedule the meeting for tomorrow afternoon." I hung up, savouring the stunned faces around me. "You were saying, Mum, about my little app?" Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Dad's face was a mask of fury and disbelief. I hung up and looked around the table, taking in their stunned expressions. The chandelier light suddenly felt brighter, illuminating their confusion and disbelief. "You were saying something about cutting me off?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. Dad's face had turned an interesting shade of red. "But how?" I pulled out my chair and sat back down, finally taking a bite of my dinner. "How?" I repeated, my tone mocking. "By working harder than any of you ever gave me credit for, by believing in something bigger than your precious firm. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you're not trying to live up to someone else's expectations." The Wellington was cold, but victory had never tasted sweeter. $120 million, 0 cents, Isabel whispered, her smirk completely gone. "Actually," I corrected her, "that's just the current stock price. The company's total valuation is significantly higher." "You're lying," Isabel spat, her voice shaking. "There's no way you pulled this off under our noses." I smiled coolly. "Maybe if you'd listened instead of lecturing, you'd have seen it coming." Mum reached for her wine glass with a slightly trembling hand. "But Margaret from Goldman Sachs said." "Margaret from Goldman Sachs," I interrupted, "doesn't know anything about my company because we've kept everything private until now." "Private?" Dad roared, slamming his hand on the table. "You hid this from your own family?" I leaned forward, unflinching. "You never asked, Dad. You were too busy telling me I'd failed. The family dinner that was supposed to put me in my place had turned into something entirely different. As I sat there watching my family's carefully constructed narrative about me crumble, I couldn't help but think about how we'd gotten here. They had never believed in me, never supported my vision. They dismissed my company as a hobby, my ambitions as a phase. "You think this is a win?" Mum said, her voice icy. "You've humiliated us." I met her gaze. "No, Mum, you humiliated yourselves by underestimating me." And this was just the beginning. The next morning, I walked into Goldman Sachs' Boston office wearing my favourite power suit. The contrast between last night's family dinner and today's meeting couldn't have been starker. Here I wasn't the disappointing daughter. I was the CEO of Tech Law Solutions, the company that was revolutionising the legal industry. "Miss Thompson, Margaret herself," greeted me at the elevator, her face a mix of awe and embarrassment. "I had no idea you were behind Tech Law," she said. "You should have paid closer attention at the club," I replied, my tone sharp but polite. The conference room was packed with investment bankers and analysts, all eager to discuss taking Tech Law public. As I sat at the head of the table, my phone buzzed with texts from my family. "Mum, we need to talk about last night. Isabel, Dad's furious. Fix this. James, holy sis, why didn't you tell us?" I glanced at the texts, my lips curling into a smirk. "Fix this," I muttered. "They're the ones who need fixing." I silenced my phone as the meeting began. My CFO, Thomas, started presenting our financials. 2 years of steady growth, 0 debt, and a client list that included 8 of the top 10 law firms in the country. "Except Thompson and Partners," one analyst noted, looking up from his papers. "Any particular reason your family's firm isn't using your software?" The room went quiet. I smiled tightly. They're stuck in the past, but the rest of the world is catching up. Everyone in Boston's legal circle knew the Thompsons, Thompson and Partners, prefers traditional methods, I said diplomatically. But we respect their choice to stay traditional. A few people smirked. Everyone knew what traditional meant. Outdated, resistant to change, stuck in the past. After the meeting, Margaret cornered me by the elevators. "Your mother's going to hear about this at the club," she said, almost pleading. I shrugged. "Good. Maybe she'll finally listen." "Sophie, your mother must be so proud she never mentioned. Actually, I cut her off. My family just found out last night, but feel free to discuss it at your next tennis match with my mother." Back at my office, my assistant Clara was managing the fallout from last night's revelation. "Your father's called 6 times, she reported. "Your sister left a voicemail. She sounds unhinged." I raised an eyebrow. "Play it." Isabel's voice crackled through. "Sophie, you've gone too far. Dad's talking about disowning you. Call me back now. Your sister's in the lobby demanding to see you. And your brother's been sending LinkedIn requests to everyone on our executive team." I took off my heels and settled behind my desk. Send Isabel up. Might as well face this now. Minutes later, my sister burst into my office, looking less polished than usual. Her eyes were wild, her usual composure shattered. "You think you're better than us now?" she hissed. "You're tearing this family apart." "What is wrong with you?" she demanded. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Built a successful company, created revolutionary software, made millions without riding Dad's coattails?" "Don't be cute," she snapped. "Dad's reputation is at stake. How do you think it looks that his own daughter's legal tech company is being used by every major firm except ours?" I leaned forward, my voice cold. "Maybe it looks like you should have trusted me instead of mocking me. Probably the same way it looked when you all dismissed my little computer project for 2 years. We were trying to protect you." Isabel ran her hands through her perfectly styled hair. "The legal world is all about tradition connections." "The legal world is changing," I interrupted. "That's what none of you understand. While you're all clinging to leather-bound books and manual research, the rest of the industry is evolving." "Evolving?" she scoffed. "You're a traitor to our name." "Dad wants you to sell," she blurted out. "He's willing to forgive everything if you sell tech law and come back to the firm. He'll even make you partner in 3 years. I laughed out loud. "Partner? Isabel, I'm about to take my company public. I'll be worth more than Thompson and Partners by the end of this year." The colour drained from her face. "You're delusional," she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. "What? You hurt me. And here's something else you should know. Crawford and Sons, your biggest competitor. They just signed a contract with us yesterday. Their research efficiency has already improved by 60%. Isabel sank into one of my office chairs. "This will kill Dad." "No," I said firmly. "This will wake him up." "Wake him up?" she snapped. "You've destroyed his legacy." "The world is changing, Isabel. Dad can either adapt or watch his firm become obsolete." As Isabel left my office looking shaken, I turned to look out at the city skyline. The family dinner that was supposed to cut me off had instead revealed just how far I'd risen. But something told me this was just the beginning of the storm. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from Dad. "Sophie, you've gone too far. Meet me tonight or you're no longer..." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mum. "We're having an emergency family meeting tomorrow night. Your attendance is mandatory." I smiled, typing back, "Sorry, can't make it. Have a board meeting about our IPO. Feel free to read about it in tomorrow's Boston Globe." Then I turned back to my computer. I had an empire to run. But the weight of Dad's words lingered. Disownment? I pushed it aside, focusing on the empire I'd built. The Boston Globe article dropped at 7:00 a.m. the next morning. Tech Law Solutions, the billion-dollar startup revolutionizing legal research. How Sophie Thompson built an empire while her family's law firm wasn't looking. I read it in my penthouse apartment. The one I'd bought myself, not the family property they'd threatened to take away. My phone lit up with notifications from colleagues, but nothing from my family. Their silence spoke louder than words. The article was comprehensive, detailing how I'd spotted a gap in the market that traditional firms like Thompson and Partners had ignored. My phone started ringing at 7:05 a.m. that I let it go to voicemail instead, opening my laptop to read the flood of emails coming in. Law firms around the country were desperate to schedule demos. An email from Crawford and Sons popped up. "Sophie, our board is thrilled. Your software's a game changer." I smiled, but my family's betrayal gnawed at me. Investors were clamoring for meetings, and tech blogs were already hailing tech law as the future of legal research. "Miss Thompson," Clara called through my private line. "Your mother's in the lobby. She's refusing to leave without seeing you." I sighed. "Send her up." Mum appeared at my door minutes later, looking uncharacteristically dishevelled. "You've ruined us," she said, her voice breaking. "Do you know what they're saying at the club?" Her eyes widened as she took in my apartment. The floor-to-ceiling windows, the modern art, the view of Boston Harbor. "You live here?" she asked, her voice small. "For the past year," I replied. "Would you like some coffee?" She nodded, sinking into my designer sofa. I poured her a cup from my expensive coffee machine. "You could have told us," she said, clutching the cup. "Instead, you let us look like fools." Another luxury I'd bought with my own money. "The article," she started, then stopped. "Your father? He's not well. Because his firm is now publicly known to be behind the times," I asked, sitting across from her. "Because his daughter blindsided him," she snapped, then caught herself. "Sophie, why didn't you tell us?" "I tried." "Tried?" she scoffed. "You snuck around, plotting this behind our backs." "Mum, for 2 years I tried to tell you about what I was building. You and Dad were too busy pushing me to join the firm, too convinced I was wasting my time." "But $1 billion, she whispered. "The article says you're going to be one of the youngest female tech billionaires in the country. Funny how success changes people's perception of waste, isn't it?" "Success?" she said bitterly. "You've shamed us." Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. "Crawford and Sons just announced they're moving all operations to tech law systems, stocks up another 30%. Mum's phone rang moments later. Probably Dad, hearing the news that his biggest competitor was now using his daughter's software. "He'll never forgive you," she said quietly. "No," I corrected her. "He'll never forgive himself." "You're heartless," she whispered, tears in her eyes. I didn't flinch. "I'm honest." There's a difference. After Mum left, I headed to the office. The atmosphere was electric. News of the Boston Globe article had everyone buzzing. As I walked through the open workspace, my employees stood and started applauding. "Speech," someone called out. I smiled, looking around at the faces of people who had believed in my vision when my own family hadn't. 2 years ago, I began. "We defied the odds," I said, my voice steady, "and we'll keep defying them. Everyone said legal tech couldn't work, that law firms wouldn't change, that tradition was too strong, but we proved them wrong, and this is just the beginning." More applause. Then Clara rushed over with an urgent message. Thompson and Partners was calling an emergency press conference. I watched it live from my office. Dad's voice trembled as he spoke, a shadow of the man I once knew. "We're adapting," he said, but his eyes told a different story. Dad stood at the podium looking older than I'd ever seen him. Isabel and James flanked him, both trying to maintain their usual confident expressions. "Thompson and Partners is proud to announce a complete digital transformation." Dad read stiffly. "We'll be partnering with leading legal tech companies to modernize our operations." I shook my head. They were scrambling, but it was too late. I'd already won. I turned off the stream. They still didn't get it. There was only one leading legal tech company, and I owned it.